Something big just happened for Bitcoin, and it has people going nuts right now over on the internet, and that would be a golden cross on the daily chart. The question, though, is what is a golden cross, and does this mean that the price of Bitcoin is about to surge again, or is it a sign that the top might be in? Let's go ahead and take a look real quickly at the chart and just discuss in the very beginning what is a golden cross on technical analysis. Now, you see two different moving averages here. This would be simple moving averages. My red line is the 50 daily simple moving average. The blue line is the 200. Every single time you have the red line cross below the blue, this is what we call a death cross. As you can even hear in the name, death cross has a very scary sound. A lot of times people associate it with bearish movements. Golden cross, on the other hand, though, is when this red line, that's the 50, crosses above the blue 200, and they call it a golden cross, which has a lighter tone to it, so you would associate it with potentially upward movement. And that's exactly what we're seeing people talk about on the internet right now. We just got a golden cross this weekend that potentially could send the Bitcoin price further to the upside. In fact, even when you're looking at it like this, let's take down our moving averages and let's just even kind of look on a smaller time frame. Let's go all the way to the 4-hour chart. You have a lot of people talking about a potential bull flag right in here. Let me grab my trend indicator, and you guys can see a little bit of a sideways consolidation. At the same time, we've had a little bit of a flag pull. This is what people are so excited about because this could send the price of Bitcoin all the way up towards $39,000. In fact, when you go over and search news, I like using News Now, and you go over to Bitcoin, you can go to popular articles and you will see Bitcoin price poised for another surge like last week. End of October targets 40,000. Mega Bitcoin withdrawal 600. There's just so many bullish opinion pieces happening right now, and a lot of them, again, the spark of this ETF news that came out, there's rumors it was approved here about 2 weeks ago. That's kind of damper, but people are really excited about the ones that could be coming here very, very soon within the next couple of months, and this has caused people to just go crazy. In fact, now the newest spark that has everyone going is, of course, this golden cross. So the question at this point is, does this golden cross mean for certain, or does it give us a good indication that price should continue to the upside? Let's go back and just look at a couple other golden crosses and death crosses, getting an idea of what this indicator really means. Now, you don't have to go too far back. Again, we looked at the death cross that did mark a bottom right here. So that death cross didn't necessarily mark any bearish movement. It actually marked the end of the bearish movement. Then you come over here to our last golden cross happening way back here in February of 2023, and you actually see this mark following a big rally actually had a dip come afterwards. We then had a secondary rally, so that's a nice bullish tone, but then we had a bigger fall to the downside once again. So this one kind of a mixed bag, kind of gave us a little bit of bearish. We had volatility follow it shortly after in the next couple of weeks. Let's scroll back into some more history and take a look at some different things. We have a death cross back here that actually ended up being a very, very decent death cross. It was, of course, following a fall in price action, but you can see after having a small bounce, we hit that death cross and continued to fall on Bitcoin. Back here to another golden cross, you will see we actually moved and rallied for a couple of more days here in September of 2021, but of course, a couple of days later, had a bigger dip before the real rally would start. The real scenario I want to go ahead and compare it to is because those who have been watching the channel for a while know that I'm comparing, based off the 4-year cycle, the current price action very heavily to what happened at the end of 2019, maybe even going into early 2020. And you will see right here, this kind of lines this up pretty nicely. The timeline's not the same, but you'll see right here we had a death cross mark the bottom of a pullback perfectly. We rallied higher, then continued to fall over the next couple of weeks, rallied again up into a golden cross, but that golden cross, while it didn't mark the top perfectly, it did start a fall in price action. Now, of course, COVID would make this even worse, but an argument could be made that in a head and shoulders pattern we had here, more than likely price was going to be falling somewhere closer towards $6,500. Let's go ahead and get rid of those. My point here, though, is historically, golden crosses, even like this one in May of 2020, they actually sometimes, maybe more often than not, are associated with prices coming back to the downside. Doesn't mean it happens 100%. The problem with golden and death crosses, ladies and gentlemen, is that golden and death crosses are lagging indicators. A lot of people want to use them to talk about future price action, when in reality, all they represent is previous explosive price action, letting you know that things have gone in a certain direction. Sometimes price continues to the upside after golden crosses, but sometimes price moves to the downside. So it's not necessarily the most reliable indicator. And then when you factor in, when you're looking at other indicators on the market, you're looking at oscillators, most recent daily ones overbought. Now we've fallen a good amount here on the oscillator while price action continues to move slightly to the upside. What does this mean? Well, we've talked about this on Investing Bros now for a while. Realistically, we are looking at right now the decision point for Bitcoin on if we want to play out that bull flag scenario that I talked about earlier in the video up to 39,000, or if we want to play out a Bart Simpson's pattern. Now, before I explain a Bart Simpson's pattern, if you are enjoying this video and learning a whole lot about moving averages, golden crosses, death crosses, make sure you go ahead and smash that like button and hit subscribe, because we cover things like this every single day here on Investing Bros. But let's talk about potentially why this might not be the bullish catalyst that some want it to be. Now, as I said, some people are reading this as a bull flag, but the problem with bull flags is that they start off looking the same as what we would call a Bart Simpson's pattern. A Bart Simpson's pattern, of course, references the character from The Simpsons, Bart. He has a very choppy looking hairline, but ultimately his head goes up, it chops, and then his head goes down. Effectively, this would mean the price, after chopping like this for a while, maybe has one more surge to the upside. In fact, I'll talk about it in a second. But ultimately, instead of shooting up to 39,000, could potentially fall back down towards 31, 30,000, and that would finish out a Bart Simpson's head. The reason why this is something to be considered is we've seen this move happen even more recently amongst large rallies. Back here in June and July, you can see after an explosive move to the upside, we chopped sideways, made one more good surge late here in July, and then that started the downside of the bottom of the Bart Simpsons, and of course we had a crash here later in August. Same thing happened back here over in April of the same year, 2023. We shoot up in price over a couple of days. We move sideways, make one more good surge, and then slowly but surely start a descent back down later on in April. The point here is that if a Bart Simpson pattern does play out, do not be surprised to see one more good rally, a push up towards this yellow line, maybe even a wick towards 36,000, which would close a gap we have on CME. That's a different video. If you don't know what CME gaps are, I'll explain that in a different video, but we do have a gap all the way up here towards 35,950. It would be interesting, as we are this close, to go ahead and close that out. But the problem is when you get to 36,000, watch the pandemonium of people thinking, here we go, we're shooting up to 39,000, when in reality, we might just be finishing out our Bart Simpson's pattern and retracing back down to that $31,000 support line. When you go out to the daily chart, this is a very significant level because we have a lot of resistance sitting at that point from back in April and July. Could be a very interesting spot for a retracement before the bull market continues to the upside. At this point, I do still think that bottoms are in for Bitcoin. I am not expecting, at this point, I'd be very surprised if Bitcoin crosses below 25,000. Very surprised if we ever cross below 15.5 again. But when I'm looking at Bitcoin and it's sitting close to resistance and potentially filling out a Bart Simpson's pattern, when I'm looking at altcoins as well, there's a lot of hype right now about altcoins, but look at what we're having going. Ethereum, after not rallying as fast as Bitcoin, it's still in a downward trend and getting very, very close to hitting its head on resistance right here around 1900. Cardano has been getting some excitement, been doing very well, but you'll see that Cardano on the log chart is coming up not only to a flat level of psychological resistance at 30 cents, we also have a descending level of resistance in a descending triangle. Now, there's a chance we get a wick that pops up towards 31 cents, not the end of the world, but at the end of the day, we're still in a downtrend here on Cardano, setting these lower highs. Same thing with XRP. While we had one wick jump above 57 cents, we are very much struggling and sitting right at resistance on XRP as well. I could continue with this with several other altcoins, but the point is that as Bitcoin gets close to its level of resistance, altcoins are doing the same, and we've seen this move happen in the past. Again, I compared this to levels and things we had happen back in 2019. We had a lot of rallies back here in 2019, what I would call bull market rallies, some that went as high as 300%, but then followed by fallbacks of 50%. Ultimately, this is not the season of 2020 when we break new highs and get very explosive. This is the season of choppy action within Bitcoin market and altcoin market that you need to pay attention to. Could I be wrong, though? Absolutely, I could be wrong. We could be about to explode up to $39,000. And if that were the case, my bags would love it, and I am prepared. However, you always need to be prepared for both the bearish and bullish scenario. And if you're hearing anyone talk about this golden cross and trying to encourage you, you have to buy now. That, ladies and gentlemen, is what we call FOMO, fear of missing out. Please don't fall for the lie that golden crosses are always bullish. In fact, more often than not, they end up correcting. They end up being a lagging indicator that tells us, hey, we were just bullish, but now it's time for a pullback. There will be a better place to buy in Bitcoin very, very soon, but be patient. Continue to watch the charts. Continue to watch the news. That is all I have for you in this video, though, guys. Make sure on your way out, if you have not already, smash that like button, hit subscribe. Here at 9 a.m. in just a couple of minutes, T-Shroom will be going live with all of the news you need, so make sure you go over and join that video as well. With that said, you guys have a fantastic day.